guys, welcome back. This is Ginny from Polly's Paper Studio, and you are watching day 12 of our 12 Days of Christmas in July series. If you're just joining in, I will leave links in the description so you can find the rest of the tutorials. For today's project, we are tackling the most requested video subject, and this is by a wide margin, is Christmas flowers. How did I make them and how am I arranging them? So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, have a snack ready. This is a long video, but I will walk you through all the steps for creating these flowers and making arrangements with them. So let's make them together. For this series, I've mostly been using the Cinch and Go poinsettia die. They have 4 different sizes, but I am only using the 2 smaller ones for card making because I just think that is a better fit. In the past, I have used my shaping tools and rounded those and, curved them. And this year I started folding them, and I've decided that I really do like it better. It's faster and easier, but I think that it just looks nicer. So I have cut 2 of each size to create the flowers. So one is larger and one is smaller, and I'm just using white cardstock here. This is offcut from mini albums and cards or whatever. I usually try and save my scraps, especially for dies that are separate, because you can really work them in and arrange them so that you get a lot of cuts in a small amount of paper. So to create the flowers, I am just going to fold on the score line. I don't know how well that shows up, but there's already a score line in the middle of this. So just go ahead and fold them right on that score line. And because I'm using the heavier weight cardstock, this is really going to hold its shape well. So do both of them. And here is where it helps to cut a lot of them and make a little assembly line. You can do this kind of busy work if you have a program you like to watch or just want to stay busy and you're not necessarily feeling creative, but you want to be productive. So for instance, in the winter, I will cut a lot of these and work on them while we watch football, because I have a shockingly short attention span and I cannot just sit and watch a show. I have to be doing something or I will literally fall asleep. So for these, I'm just using this tacky glue. I got this at the dollar store. I've tried various versions of more expensive or, more exclusive brands, and it just works just as well. So for $1, it's a good value, and because it's tacky right away, it will hold pretty quickly. So did you see that I just added the smallest amount? You really do not want this splooging out around. Get it just enough to hold it in place so that the layers don't spin and become offset. You want your petals to be right in the middle, and you want them to stay that way once you start working. It's easy to get them lined up because I'm just centering the hole that's already created with the die. And then you can, work along and have a big old pile of these. I think it's faster and easier to do each step at a time. So cut them all and then shape them all, and then you can do your stamens or pearls or whatever you like for the top. So I've decided that I want to use stamens. These are my new favorite from Really Reasonable Ribbon. They're the fossil color, and I do tend to have a lot of variety, and I'll show you that when I get to the end portion. But for these flowers, I really like that neutral because I know I can use it for shabby chic or traditional or vintage. They are not going to fit into the hole that is created with the die. So you've got to pick a flower, whatever die you're using, that you can get to the center of easily with your hole punch. Now I'm just going to use my crocodile Can you see how I've got that right in the middle? I don't know. Can you see that? No. I'm just going to cut out the center with the smallest punch size so that I can work in those stamens into the hole. I'll just go ahead and do this other one as well. I need to get a new crocodile because this one is not functioning exactly the way it used to when it was new, but I'm so stingy with money for tools and I just rather buy new fun embellishments instead. So I guess I'll just wait till that one completely falls apart. Okay, now to put in these stamens, how I do them, there's lots of different ways, and you can even add larger round shape centers. So I'm just only showing you what I did for the videos that I've shared for our 12 days of Christmas. I picked out 5. I used to do 6, but I like 5 better now, so that's what I am doing. And I'm just going to hold them so that they're all kind of equal or even, and fold them in the middle and pinch that so that it's small enough to fit into that small hole. See how that just kind of threaded right through there. I'll do the other one as well. So what you want to do is fill in that center. You don't want to punch a larger hole because all of your pieces on top will come through. You see how that's going to stop them from pulling out. And then you want to come back to the back and separate these loops and cut them in half. I've got some scrap cardstock here I just cut from the piece that came off of a card. I'm going to separate those 2 bunches so I've got 5 on either side and hold them flat against the flower. Here's a little hot glue. Look how this is after the 12 days of Christmas. I need a new glue gun for sure. I'm just putting enough here so that when I put this cardstock down, that is going to hang on to those, I don't know, threads, stems, I don't know what you call those, maybe stems, yeah. I'll do this one as well while we're here. All these glue gun strings will drive you crazy. So cut it in half, same as before. And then glue that in place so that it will hold all of those stamens where you want them in the middle. Here is where I should have brought down not my fabric scissors, so make sure you have the right scissors with you when you go to do this. I'm going to cut off all that excess in the back because I don't want that sticking out. Even the paper, cut that off all the way around so that you're not creating an accidental showing of the backside, the mechanics of your flower, and it also helps to get rid of some of the bulk. So once you've got that done, and you want to do all of these at the same time just for it to make sense for being quick, go ahead and finish all that when you go around. You can reshape these top ones. They get a little flat when you work with them. Just a little, you know, give them a pinch there, and that will give them more dimension. So I've got 2 different sizes, and I really like to layer not only the different colors but the different sizes because it just makes for a more interesting arrangement. So here's just the plain white ones, and then my filler flower that I make often out of just regular white or whatever color that you like are the smallest die. This one came from Cherryland Designs. I'm going to link Maker's Movement, and I don't know which of these they still offer. At one time you could find some on Amazon, but they have reduced the variety that you could get. Just, I guess they sell out. So you can maybe find them there, but what you're really looking for is a petal flower that has a nice size and will create kind of a cup shape when you use your shaping tools. And this one also cuts a small hole in the center like the other, so that is convenient if you wish to thread some stamens through. So here's that cut out, and you could do any color. I really like white because I typically use that as a filler around other focus flowers. And so here's my mat and a shaping tool. Whatever size you like works. I kind of like this medium one. And I'm just going to shape that petal at the end because I want it to still be a flat back flower. That way it will be easy to arrange them and adhere them. And then this particular tool has a tiny end on the other side, so I'm going to poke that out so that I can thread my stamens through. So this one, the smaller flowers, I like to have 3, unless you have a larger stamen, and I'll show you some of those at the end. Just makes visual sense to put 3 in. Unless you have a really big one, then you can put 1. And I'm only going to use half of this because that way you can do more flowers for the same amount and thread it through. So now this is super tiny hole, and you have to thread all these through if you remember your glasses, which I did not. Okay, so pull those tight and then flip it around to the back again and hold just that whole side over and add your glue, same as before. Put your scrap on. It doesn't matter that this doesn't match because you're gonna cut a lot of it off and then it will be just hidden in the layers. So now you've got a small kind of filler flower which looks really nice at the ends of your flower arranging. And cut all that off because you don't want that to show. At one time I used to make a lot of flowers and I would use glue dots to hold them to a piece of cardstock. That way I can flip through. But I just found that I was making so many of them frequently that I would have too many of one size or not enough of another color. And it just became really inconvenient to switch them out so that they would stay organized. So I've just created some little boxes here with 110-pound cardstock, and I got 2 of these for each 8.5 by 11 sheet, so it works out to be a good value. And then I can just stack them in a basket and I don't have to adhere them to anything, and I can just use them and refill them as they go along and not worry that they're going to be in the wrong place on the permanent card. So okay, here's 3 different sizes, 2 different styles. I've also brought down this die, which I like. I don't remember where I got this one from, but you really like to have a petal that has cut down enough in the center that you can shape it and then stack it and alternate the layers. So you're going to get a lot of fullness in here, but not so much that it doesn't look like your petal goes all the way down. I've had some that just didn't really look right when they're stacked because they're too solid in the middle, and that also creates a problem if you want to add a stamen or a center, because you'll have your center embellishment and then so much paper around it that it just doesn't look normal. I did these the same way. I cut them 2 of the same size, and then I'll just alternate that layer once I've got them shaped. I pinched these like I did the first one. You can use a bone folder if you're more comfortable with that, but I didn't think it needed that. I just folded it and it was fine. Or you could shape them with that shaping tool in your foam mat. I put pearls in these because I thought that they looked kind of pretty that way. Or you could use prills. That is a nice way to add some accent to the middle. So I'll just move these out of the way and bring in my foliage. This is what is left have, if you guys were following me on Instagram and Facebook, which you should be because I post a lot of stuff, I just cut a ton of leaves in different shapes, different shades of green. I had this just about filled, and I've just been using it. It's so convenient and handy to have these, reach for them and have them ready when you need them so that you don't have to stop and go and cut things. And I like a variety of different shapes as well. And this is all offcut, so I'm only using scrap for these. A couple of different leaf styles I have left are the holly, and these are great, like I mentioned, with the separate flower dies, because you can really work them around in your paper and get a lot more cut for the same size of paper. And it's just nice to, you can cut as many of that shape as you like, or that shape, but you do have to run it through the machine more often, so it will take a little bit more time and effort, but you'll get more per piece of paper, and you can customize. So like, I only want 2 of these or 3 of these, and I don't want any of that one. You don't have to cut the whole sheet. You know, you can just get exactly what you want. This one is the rose leaf. These purpley ones are from Maker's Movement as well. And these came in a strip, so it has from larger to smaller, 2 of each. I have 2 of these, and I really like having 2. I use them often so that I can just line them up on my piece of paper and cut as many leaves as I want to at one time and fill up a bin so that they're handy and convenient. This is a good size also, I think, for card making. Sometimes you can get leaves that are really large and they're hard to work into arrangements. So I like the rose leaves, and then my holly for holiday projects. I also had this one, which has another leaf I took off for another project. This is Flourish 14. I didn't grab that die, but this is good too because it kind of has its shape already. So when you put your flower on, it sort of looks like it's in the right spacing for an arrangement. So that is my leaves. Now I did start out, if you were watching me on Instagram, with my plaid flowers, and this is all that is left. I had this whole bin full, and I've used every one of them almost, except just these last few. I put a gold stamen in these just to be a little extra festive. So this is the Tim Holtz Christmas paper from that paper pad. I brought down, this is the Authentique Rejoice 8x8 paper pad. I'm just absolutely in love with this collection, and I will probably drive you all crazy with all of the projects I create with it. But I just really love it. And I picked one of these patterns out earlier. I didn't use all of it. No, you already used that pattern up. See how I just really like it, and I used it up already. But this is what I got from one 8x8 sheet of paper with the dies that I showed you earlier. So here is 5. Are these all in screen? 5 of the larger flowers, and that's still the fossil stamen in the middle. I got 5 of glue, the smaller flowers. So these are the smaller poinsettia. Now we're at 10 flowers, and then I got 6 of the filler flower size out of one sheet of 8x8 pattern cardstock, and that's because those were separate dies for each layer, and then I could work around and take advantage of all the available space on the sheet. I absolutely love these printed paper flowers. I think they're just really so sweet and extra festive. Some people like solid, that's fine, but I think these are just extra special. So these are going in, even though this is day 12, I'm still gonna bring more holiday projects throughout July, just not every day. So I will definitely be able to get use out of these. Some of the flowers I showed in the projects had the faux snow on that, and I did get a lot of questions on what that was. So this is Aleene's glitter snow. I think I said that right. Aleen, I don't know. I got this from Amazon, and I lost one of my bottles and bought another one, and I'm telling you, this is gonna last you a really long time. I use it for putting through my stencils as well, because texture paste and I are not the best of friends, and it always dries up so fast that I don't feel like I get a good value out of the jar because it will dry up faster than I can use it. But this one I've had, probably 2 years now, and it is not dry yet. It's not half full, maybe a little more than a quarter. And it's still perfectly usable, whereas a texture paste would definitely have hardened right up and not been usable at that point. So this works well for stenciling and also to add to the ends of your flowers. I found this brush, Finnabar. It's the 1/4-inch flat brush, works really well, and you want to take care to wash this right after you use it because it will harden on this brush and ruin it. So got to get it out. I'm going to roll the dice on this one today and keep working on this video, but then I'm going to rush right upstairs and rinse it out. So here's the flower that I worked with earlier, and I'm just going to kind of press those in so I get a little bit of extra room to move and work around. And then I'm going to hold the whole flower just by one petal and then get in here with a little bit of this. Like, a little goes a long way for sure. That's why it lasts so long. And I think it's just because it's so nicely opaque that you don't have to reapply it or add a big old glob of it just to get an actual effect. I don't have my glasses on, of course, so I'm just going to do this very carefully. I'm kind of just dabbing it off the edge. I'm not like pounding it on there. I'm kind of coming over. So I'm scraping what's on the side of the brush onto the surface at the edge. So it's just going to coat the edges of it, not come all the way in. And use this sort of intentionally. Don't go all over and crazy. I tell you guys that with your stickles all the time. Just don't feel like if there's a surface you got to put something on it. You just think about nature, and that if you had an actual frosty cover on a surface, it wouldn't be in a very specifically organized way. It would be very random and organic. Some of it would be thicker, some of it would be, thinner, some of it would have none. But just go around and decide where you think it looks good. If you think you have too much on, you probably don't. Or if you think you have too little, you probably don't. It just will look very organic and natural when you add it with the rest of your arrangement. So go ahead and finish that. I have in the past attempted to sprinkle glitter on this, but it sets up pretty quickly. It does take a bit of time to dry. This process right here, adding it on, you can just, set them up and get them all done pretty quickly, but you do have to let it dry fully before you start working with it, because you could smush the effect, and that isn't as nice. So I would just, do all the parts of your flowers that need to set up and dry first, and then work on other things, so when you come back to it, it'll be ready to work with. And like I said, do get after that brush. Don't let it sit like I am. I hope I don't ruin my brush. That shouldn't be too much longer. So here is my pre-arranged pieces, and I've picked white and red, and then I'm also thinking about a couple of these little plaid ones. So what I want to do is kind of lay them out first and make sure that I have the right amount to fill in the space and the right kind and the right size. I really like to anchor it with a large floral, whatever flower it is, whether it's poinsettia or different kind of flower. And then I'm thinking about what color I want to be most prominent. For this arrangement, I do like the red one on top. See how it changes the effect by whichever focal flower you put on top, because that's going to be the largest surface that you see. And so I've got this one I put a pearl in. I kind of like that as well. Sometimes you put them so layered that you don't really even necessarily see the center as much. So I wouldn't necessarily be that concerned. All the layers have to be totally perfect. And then I like that I've got the larger grouping, and then I'm bringing out the size, and then this one will be at the end to taper into the right size for the leaves. So now that I've got this basic setup in place, I can tack some of these flowers together. I'm gonna bring back that horrifying glue gun of mine. I arrange my flowers off project because I don't want to start working with my embellishments and get an odd shape that doesn't fit my project, or it hides words, or it just comes out as a weird shape, and sometimes that happens. So this way you can move things around before you stick it on to your project, or if you need to move something just a little bit, you don't have to move each piece separately. It all goes together. So here is the anchor to the arrangement. I'm gonna fight with that glue stick, I can tell. And then I will shape these leaves so they are flat basically, and I'm just gonna loop them around this finger and then with my thumb just to give them a little bit of dimension. I do that before I stick them together, and you can often flip the leaves one way or the other to get the orientation that you like. So if you want them to go that way, you can usually flip them, as long as you've not used a pattern paper. That would look strange on the other side. I'll do both of these just the same way. And now I've got my loopy twine bows, which I always love to have as a filler. I'm gonna just fold them in half with the tails in the middle. That way they are the correct shape. And probably burn myself with the glue, as I always do. I clipped that long tail off of the twine bows here. So now that you know you've got this where you have the larger flower in the middle, I like to create an angle shape because I think that looks best around the a focal image or whatever you're adding it to. So see, I'm gonna put this one here and this one over here. I might not have came out with that shape had I started just gluing flowers to my project. I often also add small like die cut foil stars or some berry accents from berry stems. You can find those in the craft shops and tuck those in as you're working along so that you catch your tails in the layers. That way it will stay together. And so here is a really pretty arrangement. And these are all just regular 65-pound weight cardstock. So if you want to add a little extra detail, definitely use that glitter snow, or come in with your stickles and just very carefully and thoughtfully add it to the petals. Don't go all glitter crazy and do every one, because that just doesn't look natural. You know, because plaid flowers look natural. Anyway, here is that arrangement. I put a little extra something on it to dress it up a little. And then if you're going to do, like I generally have a larger arrangement on one side of my project and then I anchor it with a smaller one. So you can do 2 of this and then have your card or your tag ready, and then just decide where to place those and adhere them. So while I had my dies out, I decided that a lot of people get very stuck on, for instance, that poinsettia being a Christmas flower. And I just don't think that you have to stay in season. I really like the shape of that flower. It was really easy to create. So I brought that same design. It's absolutely the same design, but with Halloween paper. See how cool that is. It just, you have to pick a pattern that's really small to get a good effect. You see how that's probably making your eyes buggy to look at, because you're going to cut these into such small shapes and you don't want to lose that pattern. But I just made them with the Halloween paper and put the stamens in, and then my filler flowers are black this time in my leaves. And then I put this Midnight Stickles, Black Diamond, on instead of clear. So now I can decorate my Halloween projects, which is coming up faster than you think, because once you get Christmas in July done, you've got to start working on fall projects. But this is just one way to stretch your supplies. They're so expensive. Dies are not cheap, y'all. And I want to get the most use out of them that I can. So I'm going to use this for every holiday that I can hammer these into. And just by switching out the stamens and the pattern paper, you can really get so much more mileage out of it. So I'm going to show you what the paper looks like after you've cut. See, I've just kind of squished this a little too much, but big flower, little flower, little flower, and I flipped them around so that I could get them as close as possible and still cut the full shape. And then I've got my 2 little filler flowers. Look what's left. So because I just cannot get rid of any kind of cool plaid, I'm going to come in with this hole punch. I've used this in a previous tutorial before, but I just want to show you how easy it is to make your own reinforcing spots for your tags. You want to put twine through the top of the tag, but you don't want it to accidentally pull through the paper. I just use that 1/2 inch circle punch, and I have found that you can fit 3 of these in your 1.5 inch Xyron. You have to kind of place them in carefully so that they're next to each other and they don't overlap, but you can get 3 of them in there. And then pull enough out. I would do a lot at one time because this is a bit wasteful of that adhesive. And then really work that so that you're catching all of the adhesive on the top to pull off, and it won't make as much of a mess. But then pull off that top strip. And before you take them off of the backing, go back in with your hole punch. You don't have to use a crocodile, you just have regular hole punch, and cut the middle out, right? And now that is a super cute plaid Halloween inspired reinforcing spot for your tags. Do you see how quickly that was? And I didn't get any new paper out. That was all just scraps. I did that with my buffalo plaid ones as well for my Christmas projects, and that is perfect. So here is my collection of Stamens, y'all, and this is when you know that you are a hardcore flower maker when this is what your Stamen collection looks like. So I get them mostly from Really Reasonable Ribbon or wherever I find a cool color that I like, and they start to fluff up when you pull a few out, and it's very difficult to manage them back into that bag, and then they get tangly. So I've been replacing the bag with these little containers. Now I'm fortunate that my father-in-law was a electrical engineer, so he had lots of little bits in little teeny acrylic things that he would store all his parts in. So I brought those into my shop, and they are so good for keeping all of these separate, and then I can open them easily and flip through and get the ones out that I want to use without them exploding all over the desk, because they just kind of come out and then they're everywhere. So this is lots of Stamens and some larger ones. I mentioned that before. If you can find some larger ones, you only need one instead of a grouping of 2 or 3. I've also picked up some that are, from Really Reasonable Ribbon as well. These are the berry sprays, and they have cool texture. I take them apart from the stem. There's like many here together, and if you pull that greenery off, you can get to the stem. So those are fun too, and a little bit more textured and detailed. She's got metallic ones as well, which are perfect, and the black ones for like Halloween, and berries for whatever color of your project. Here's like some poofy fillers for around larger embellishments when you need to fill a space. These are really nice to have as well, like metallic ones, and they kind of help to bring a little sparkle. Lots of different colors. And then some spiral Stamens, which I used to put on everything, and now I don't use them as often, but it's nice to have them handy in case I want to use them as fillers. And then another thing that you want to have for sure is one of these trays for your prills, because these are just a hot mess. Once they come out, if you don't corral them, they will roll all over and crazy. But pick a couple of colors that you like for your project. So gold is nice. This one is a berry nice, and that has just a kind of a red in different shades, and then a green. So that looks pretty in poinsettias as well. So this is all contained. This is not all the prills I have, by the way. I just put a couple in for demonstration, but this is a plastic dish pan from the dollar store, and that's great because it has little handles and I can move it around and have them all together, and handy when I'm making flowers. Okay, now that I have a ginormous mess down here to clean up, I will thank you for joining me for our 12 days of Christmas in July and 1 day with Little Halloween. And I will make sure to catch up on my commenting. We're leaving for camping just as soon as I get this video edited and uploaded, so I will be able to enjoy some quiet time by the lake and get caught up on the comments. And I have so enjoyed hearing all of your feedback and connecting with everyone. It was so great, and I really appreciate everyone who took the time to give me a thumbs up and leave me a kind comment. So this is all for our 12 days of Christmas in July, y'all. I'm so sad it's over, but don't worry, there's probably going to be more holiday inspiration before July is over, so don't give up on me just yet. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, leave me a comment, do all the things. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.